license has expired. Why is that? Before we get started, I'm just trying to find my telemetry license that people emailed me, and I shoved it in a folder. And I don't remember where it was now, which kind of sucks. All right, let me go look on my laptop. I got to go look on my laptop because that's what computer I was using at that time. I would have got this email while I was in Hawaii at the beginning of the year. Yes, there's a file. It's a 7-zip file. Aha. There we go. That's the good action. All right, so first I could just do the license. delete that. Actually, you know what? We'll update everything. Yeah. No, we won't. Because I don't want to really run it right now. I don't want to do like a serious profiling session right now. I just want to make sure it works. Because we're hiring someone who's going to do some performance related things. So making sure this is all still up and going is a good idea. Okay. So update. Boom. Run it. No license file was found. What are you talking about? Oh, I probably need the new version of the binary because they changed something. All right, well, let's do that. Let's do that. What a fun extra thing to do at the start of the stream. That's the wrong window. That's the right window. Okay. So then, problem is, well, maybe it actually needs to be copied. The README says it needs to be in a folder for me, but let's just try. Let's just try wiping the whole thing. And then, of course, Subversion just had a bug. So that's great. That's helping this go faster. So now I get to go do a cleanup and then hope I could try again. Because, you know, source control is about manipulating the files that you think are very important. So having that work correctly is not good. Oh, it cannot access the file because it's being used by another process. Okay, what other process? Probably a stuck subversion process. I'm not going to get into downloading sysinternals shit here again. I'm going to throw the laptop out the window if it comes to that. Why are there like 100 svc host.exes running, by the way? Like, it's literally, we've got visual C++ package serve running like 15 frickin' times. We've got like a million. Let's get rid of the Chromes. Let's start there. We've got like 5 Adobe CEF helpers. I've got 6 discord.exes. What is happening? I'm just going to reboot this thing before I even try to do anything with it. What's going on, people? I hope you are having a better time getting work done than me. I just want to get work done, but can't fucking seem to do that right now. Of course, then I'm trying to type into the console and Discord pops up over it and steals my input. Okay, Discord is getting exited. Quit. All right. Now I was able to do the cleanup for some reason. Let's try again to delete the files. Okay, that worked. Now we'll try to get the files that we wanted to get from whatever folder. Let's find whatever folder that was in. Okay, here. I'll now paste these. We'll try svn adding these. Okay. Okay, we'll try committing these. Let me even see if it runs on this computer. Oh, fuck you. I just want to check this in, please. Subversion has this weird thing sometimes where it tells you things are out of date when they're not. And it just did that to me. It's like, I know it was up to date. It hasn't changed in a year. And then suddenly you're telling me it is. And then I update, and then it updates nothing, and then it's up to date. It's like, thanks, guys. Okay, so that is checked in. What happens if I run the thing? Okay, that does seem to work from there. So let's try it on our actual computer that we want to actually use. Okay. This is probably still in the same folder. Aha, we finally have it. Okay, good. That only took 20 minutes. 15 minutes. Let's not exaggerate. 15 minutes objectively, subjectively, way more time than I would have liked. Okay, so we have a telemetry build of the compiler. I don't know if it still compiles. Maybe. Maybe. Why is every software nowadays bloated? Because nobody even understands what utility is anymore. Like, software development is not guided by making useful things or functioning things, really. Okay. So for example, if I do this, that's compiling with the release build. I should be able to do that with the telemetry build. Boom. All right. Did that? It did. Okay. Let's I think this font's a little small. Let's see how yeah, let's make that a little bigger. Why is the font scale not making the fonts bigger? Oh, because it doesn't till we're done. All right. Well, I can't say I think much of this font, but okay. Okay, so I haven't looked at this really in a long time. So this is going to be parsing, right? Yeah, this is file loads. Which really, a lot of this has got to be contention in some way. Because this is like taking way too long, like 7 milliseconds to load. How big is that file? Now, it doesn't matter as much because it's happening in parallel, but still, it's like 6,000 lines. It's still too long. So there's some kind of synchronization happening that we're going to have to look into. Interestingly, that file takes a lot more than many others, but maybe it's just proportional to the size. What are all these red guys? Array, allocate, add statement. Well, we can look into that better later. Anyway, that's not super important. It's a little bit important, but like sort of the bottleneck of everything is going to be this one. This is where like most of the work is actually happening, as you can see. So this part is like running the linker. Now, these numbers come out a little bit different because this has all this profiling in it. So like our compiler takes longer proportionally. So like here, this ends at almost 1 second, whereas when we compile without telemetry, you know, we get there in 0.6, right? So, you know, that's the overhead of profiling for you. Yeah, so I'm not that surprised looking at this. This is still kind of what I expect. What are these reds? Pick up run directive. 5 milliseconds. Okay. Okay. What's it doing? Run loop. That's probably running a modify directive, which happens on the main thread right now, which maybe shouldn't. Yes. Okay. Anyway, so a lot of this is type inference. Some of these take a really long time. Down here, where we end up in infer types for tiny amounts of time, I think a lot of this is like flailing that could be optimized out. Like when you see like big ass blocks in infer types, it's like, okay, that's expected. Some little ones expected. Lots of little ones, it's like, also 40 milliseconds. That's like a long time, really, for one like top level. This is like one top level function or something, right? So 40 milliseconds spent in one top level function is way too long, no matter how long that function is. I mean, within reason. So we're doing some polymorphs. I assume maybe we're doing the same polymorphs over and over. Probably anything that takes a long time has a lot of these purples in here. You can't see or understand any of this black magic. Can you still be a game designer? I mean, do you want to limit yourself to how good of a game designer you could be? I wouldn't be too eager to do that if I were you. Okay. So on the one hand, this is still like about as fast as this compiler has ever been, right? Historically. On the other hand, there's so much stuff that could be improved. Guaranteed. Before we even parallelize it. Yeah. Like this, like just 4 to 6 procedures here, whatever they're doing is like 15% or 20% of the compile time. That's like a lot and probably unwarranted. And so debugging that would be a good idea. Let's do a zone view. Let's go here. Oh, this isn't colored anymore? Do we need to do something else? Why are the colors not here? Anyway, so this is sorted by inclusive time. Let's sort by exclusive. Yeah, okay, so this inferred types, this is just a thing that iterates over everything in a compilation unit. Find scope entry is what looks up identifiers. I would actually maybe expect that to be proportionally slower than it is. Resolve one ident. We don't seem to have flatten in here. That might be a big deal. What just happened? What is this? Close this. No. I don't want reverse out. Okay. I mean, these kind of add up, I guess. 3, 6, 8, 10, 12. Oh no, this is flattening. This is a lot faster than I expected, which is interesting. And also, polymorph is a lot faster than I expected. Actually, no, they're at 5 milliseconds. It's interesting to me that it spends so much time in this one function, which either means it spends that much time in that function, which I don't think is probably true. Or this calls something that is not being profiled. Which is the most likely to me. And bears further investigation. But all I wanted to do right now was make sure that this still works, which it does. It is all good. Whoa. What's the difference between do compilation cycle on thread 14 and thread 15? Okay. So thread 15 is the main compiler thread that is actually compiling your program. Okay. Actually, there's going to be like 3 of these actually. There should be, I think this one may also. Anytime, yeah, here's one. So anytime there's a program running, you have this. During the compilation of Sokoban, there's like 3 things happening. There's the default metaprogram that we now run to boot any compilation process, and that has some command line options you can give it and stuff. So that's probably this one. It would be good for us to like fill out these thread names with things, right? So that's one. This one is the actual metaprogram of the Sokoban game that does the stuff like looks through the functions and the data structures to see which ones it wants and stuff like that, right? That's this one. And then this is the actual compiler doing most of its work, which also involves some red run stuff. But these are in the minority. These are like run directives that are in the main program themselves, I think. Which maybe should be in a separate thread from this, if I'm being honest, so that they can overlap. But maybe that wouldn't help that much. Maybe, I don't know. What sort of slowdown do you expect? I mean, it depends on how heavily your program is instrumented, right? We're doing manual instrumentation. So just if you, in a really tight loop, put a telemetry instrumentation, that's going to add a lot of overhead. If you don't do that, it won't add that much. So this is like us generating machine code, which takes longer than I would like, but is faster than it was. Actually, no, this is emitting machine code. This is like outputting data. This is, okay, yeah, this is outputting machine code. This is like the data sections, which honestly takes a lot longer than I think that it maybe should. So we could look at those at some point. Like what's here? Oh God, just a ton of this shit. Yeah. Okay, this is a little bit, so these are very tiny functions that do very little work. So like instrumenting them, the instrumentation is mostly overhead. And the problem is that now when I look at this, this looks really big, but it's probably mostly instrumentation. Like it probably doesn't take this long to run in the actual compiler, right? So that could be misleading. If you overdo your instrumentation, it could be misleading. However, this doesn't look as heavily instrumented. So like, what's the deal there? Why is that so slow? I don't know. Writing out the file, you know, maybe we can do something faster there. There's all sorts of things. Okay. 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 Let me turn the heat on. Any questions about what we're looking at? I'm about to close the profiling data and just go work on bugs now. Does it also do sampling profiling? It didn't used to. I believe that they have added that. I think I heard that they added that, but I don't know how it works actually. I would have to go read the documentation to figure out how to do sample profiling, because I think this is just the viewer, right? Do we call TM tick? I don't think we do. We could put that in. Because we don't, you know, the compiler doesn't really render, but although we could call that once per main loop, but that would happen from different threads. And that's probably, it would happen multiple times in different threads. So I don't really think that's what they want. So maybe we shouldn't add that. I don't know. Maybe they don't do sampling profilers. I don't know, man. These are nice colors. How deep are these nested calls? They are as deep as you saw. No questions about that? Really? 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 Crazy shallow? Not really. I mean, well, okay, there are more calls than you see there. Those are just the things that are profiled, right? That said, yeah, my call stack is never going to look like a Java program. It's just not how I roll. Just not how I roll. All right. So, that is that for now. Glad we got that working. It's going to be maybe a couple weeks before the new person starts, but that stuff will be in working order at that time, I think. Okay. Now let's do Bugsnax. I have some emails reporting problems. The new beta that I sent out a few days ago has like massive big changes, so some breakage is expected. Okay, so this one, AutoCast is complicated. Maybe it should do this. Maybe it should. Actually, no, I'm not going to. I actually don't know what's wrong there, so I will have to investigate that. That is not the highest priority. Highest priority are things that prevent a program from compiling in a very abrupt way. Which one to do first? Let's do this one. This one might be fixed already. Sending a request for further things. Okay. Here we go. Type queries target type is not fully processed. I don't. Why would that happen? Okay. Well, I mean, probably it's because we're making a polymorph of this here. And then for some reason, we're going live anyway. I think it's because I changed the criterion for struct has gone live. So basically, it's a strongly typed programming language. So at some point, structs have to become concrete things that can be instantiated at runtime. When you have something like that, then it's time for it to figure out the types of all the variables and what, like for example, to run the run directives in here and all that sort of thing. Prior to that, it shouldn't do that. And so I think what is happening is here we're making a thing that's like temporary and to represent this, and that's invoking this when it shouldn't. That is my theory. Will you eventually be able to do my int : type def int? Like whatever. I mean, sure, but that's a relatively minor thing. How many passes does the compiler do? That's a meaningless question. What do you mean by passes? That you're asking 1980s compiler questions of a 2021 compiler. Like, that does not compute is the answer. Over 9,000. Yes, it is over 9,000. It is over 9,000. All right. So, I mean, let's just break in the error report. Oh, we already have a breakpoint there. And we'll just verify that the situation is what I think it is, and then we can look at like why that's happening, which might take a minute to backtrace. What would be a good approach to create a utility application that people can use both as a compiled installed application and in their browsers remotely when there's a team using the same tool that uses the same? Like, why does anyone think that that's hard? I don't understand. Can you tell me what you think is the problem with doing that? Like, you're talking to someone who fucking ships games on a handheld video game console and on a PC. Like, what's the problem? Like, people somehow decided that shipping things on more than one platform was like some unsolvable problem of computer science, especially when one of those platforms is the browser, which I'll tell you, browsers are pretty crappy, but when you go to a crappy platform, you have to deal with the crappiness. Like, that's just what the job that you picked, right? If you don't like the crappiness, don't go to a crappy platform. Crap form. That's right. Don't port to a crap form, and no problem. Like, you know that we've been shipping software on radically different computers since the 1970s. It's 2020. It's literally 50 years since we've been doing that. 50 years. It's like a 1911, two world wars. Browser is a slightly slow computer? No, it's a tremendously slow computer. That also has huge variance in performance cliffs. Yes, but slightly slow is false. It's tremendously slow. Just avoid shipping as a web application together, making... What appeals with shipping as a web application is that the use doesn't have to do anything to update. Well, you're assuming you're going to be updating all the time. Why don't you just give people something that works? Like, what's wrong with that? Make it so people don't have to update very often, right? Or just have it update. Like when you run a web program, all that happens is when you get the newest version is either you downloaded the new JavaScript or whatever from the server, and or you updated the server component, which if it should be on the server, right? There's such a thing as like arbitrary needless client server, but assuming that there are things that belong on a server, then those are similar in both categories. So like, if you want the thing to auto download a new version of itself all the time, why don't you just do that? Like, yeah, that's probably annoying to program the first time, but then once you do that, it's fine. I mean, it's kind of garbage that operating systems don't give you a more automated way to do that, but that's because operating system progress stopped 15 or 20 years ago. Like, I don't really, like, I'm a little bit grumpy about this kind of question, and it's not to you specifically, but like, I'm tired of people playing in the kiddie pool, and like, they don't realize that they're playing in the kiddie pool, which is why I can't be like, that's why I don't blame people. It's like people think they've been taught how to swim, and what people have been teaching them is how to wade in the kiddie pool, right? And you're not going to go win the Olympics with what you've been taught. So like, that's why these questions are frustrating, you know? It's like, if you make the simplest things into big problems, you're never going to leave the realm of simple things that are big problems. Like, you can do that fractally. You can make big problems out of every decision forever. Any advice on remotely managing a small team? It's really hard. I don't use to-do lists for people. It might be better if I did, honestly, but I don't do that. I don't honestly manage very much, and I don't honestly manage very well. I manage things just well enough to keep them going. People don't think of programming as getting the computer to do whatever you want. Everything has to fit into a specific mold that's already being done. Yes, I think that's a big part of it. That's a very astute observation. Like, yeah, like your computer has a CPU that is designed to be configurable to do whatever you want it to do. That's like what the CPU instruction set is. It's amazing how many different things your CPU can do. It's amazing. How can you get native performance while still being cross-platform? Would it be feasible to compile on the client's computer? I don't recommend that. I mean, that's what Java did originally, right? Sort of, in its own way. I don't like that because, like, look, you should test things and make sure they work before you ship them to people. And you've only tested the binary that you've tested. So if like something gets automatically compiled somewhere else, like what are the differences in environment that lead it to be compiled differently and become something different than what you tested? Like there's going to in reality be a lot. So just like ship binaries, it's fine. Ship WebAssembly if that's the closest to binary that you can get given your operating environment, whatever. But like I don't like it. The time since sort of the mid 80s has been characterized by people playing wacky, needless games with making software more complicated than it needs to be. And we see where that it gets us a big mess. So just most of this stuff is pretty simple. I mean, it can be hard in the beginning to see how it's simple because software is hard, like programming is hard and you have to learn it. But once you learn it, like just don't complicate things needlessly and most things will be a lot easier. Shaders are often compiled on target machines. Yes, and they also often don't work. Like shaders are almost a prime example of what I'm talking about. Look, if I ship an executable, the actual machine language part of that executable, the part that runs on the CPU, is astoundingly reliable. It will work correctly in very, 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 very close to 100% of cases without fail. The only exceptions being like, I don't know, Pentium fdiv bug or whatever, right? Okay. I mean, there are actually more bugs in CPUs today than there used to be because they're getting more complicated, but it's astoundingly reliable. As soon as you start calling operating system calls, those change behind your back. You don't really want to do that. You want to minimize it, right? Because your reliability goes off a cliff. As soon as you start calling user level libraries that you allow to change because I don't know, like you're shipping some JavaScript bullshit that downloads the newest version every time or something. Those are going to be huge points of failure, right? Shaders, hey, they get compiled by the graphics driver. Which graphics driver does your user have? I don't know. So what code is the compiler going to generate? I don't know. You can't, you know nothing about that. You can't quality control it, and therefore it's a huge point of failure. It's a giant pain in the ass. Like it is very clear. Anyone who's got some experience in software can look at these different things and see how reliable they are relative to each other. And like people fucking open your eyes, like look, right? Like observe and learn. And I just get so frustrated that people don't do that. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's hard to have knowledge across all these domains, right? So for example, if you don't do video games, you probably don't know how buggy shaders are in ways that are not your fault. But like there are equivalent things in other areas that people in other fields can observe. It's what Vulkan is trying to manage, not correctly, no. No, not correctly. The correct way for Vulkan to manage it would be to give us an instruction set, and you compile to that instruction set. You'd be surprised how many CPU bugs you've seen. Yeah, I mean, the harder you stress CPUs, the more bugs you'll find, for sure. And the more weird your CPU is, the more bugs you're going to find. Like Intel had a bunch of high-profile mistakes lately, even. Like Intel chips used to be a lot more reliable, and then they sort of got loose on quality control for a while. But still, even so, even given all of that, still tremendously more reliable than the software part. Tremendously more. And like, again, you can, depending on what you're able to do, like, hey, if you're able to specify, like if you're at a company and you're like, we're deploying computers to all our employees, you can pick what CPU that is, right? And you can control your environment that way. Like the more you can do those things, the more you can quality control. And yeah, AVX 512 is one of these things. I've never tried to use it, so I can't really have an opinion on it. But it sure looks too complicated. When I look at it, I'm like, why are there so many instructions? Maybe there really need to be that many. It sure seems too complicated though. And like at this point, you know, x86 family CPUs are so burdened by backward compatibility. They're like a lot, like if you imagine, like, I just want to make a CPU that does what this chip does at approximately the same speed, but like from a clean slate. The architecture can be whatever, the instruction set can be whatever. It would be a much simpler, cleaner CPU, right? And therefore it would have fewer bugs. And it would be great if we could do that. First gen was insane. It would clock down. Yeah, I mean, AVX 512 was, what I was hearing from people early on is that you didn't want to use it because it was probably slower than not using it. Yeah. Okay, let's actually do some Bugsnax here. I'm going to have some chocolate snacks while I do the Bugsnax. What is the hardest problem that compile time execution solves? Your mom. All right, so here we have the case where we get to the error. We can sort of backtrace and see who caused it. You know, this is going to be probably a polymorphic variable. Right, so this is going to be, so queued expression is going to be a lambda. Yeah, and so we can look at the header, or yeah, let's look at the header. This chocolate's really good. Okay. So the arguments block, oh no, this lambda will be inside a struct. So constants block and closing scope, where's that? Oh, parent. Belongs to struct. So my theory is this struct is polymorphic. My theory is this profiler of $t. In fact, like what else could it possibly be, right? But I'm just verifying because sometimes I think I know what's happening and then I'm surprised, right? Okay, in the arguments block, no members. So the arguments have been baked out. Constants block, there is one member, right? Okay, okay. This is going to be a declaration. And I think it's going to be bound to a type that says, yeah, it's bound to a type. This is going to say defines constants block entry of T. All right. So we're looking at the type definition. It's polymorphic. That's what 512 means here. Defines constants block entry of where, how do we know? Oh, right. This is just a declaration. So the identifier is going to be T. Yeah, it's T. So I actually know what's happening. So the problem is just that we made this go live. And the reason we made it go live is that its arguments block is empty. And that's not the correct criterion because it's polymorphic. Now, did it get flagged as polymorphic? It should be. Let's look at the struct here. Whoops. Wait, what? Oh. Okay, so this has a defined type. It's polymorphic. So let's just say when did this go live? Asked. Okay. There we go. So I think I just need to check the polymorphic flag, which we used to do, and then I was like, no, wait, we don't need to do that, but we actually do. Okay, hold on. Common go lives. Struct has gone. Expression is interesting. Wait, really? Oh, okay. Here, this is the thing that's wrong. Because we do want the struct itself to go live. It's just this part. Going into here is what's wrong. Okay. We need to check for a polymorphic defined type because maybe this struct is something like yeah, let's go here and just put this. To make that profiler of $t, we still polymorph a struct and put $t into, I got to pour my tea, speaking of tea, might be oversteeped, probably is oversteeped, although it was a second steeping, so who knows. We still polymorph a struct and put $t into its constants block. that makes the type polymorphic, and in that case, we do not want to actually generate it. Generate the body. We do not want to actually make the body go live since it could have all kinds of stuff. Do not expect type def poly use. Okay. So I suspect that that is an easy fix for that specific bug. Oh, that was release build. Hey, okay, no program entry point was found. That's fine. I will send this person. Okay. First bug is fixed in the next beta. Still not sure what to do about the second part and whether it's fixed also by this or not. Okay, cool. Cool. Okay, let's run the tests. And while that's happening, I can go to the change log. And I can say, fixed a problem where structs with explicit parameters, functions like f actually cause the compiler to get confused. Why do I have a capital P there? That's terrible. Okay. Okay, I'll try to explain. So this kind of run directive, any code that you put in a struct is talking about the struct like when t has a value, right? So this is saying, hey, when you make this struct with some type as a parameter, then I want max queries to be like the type info, like however many things are in there, right? Now, in a case like this, okay, what this means is it's an instruction to the pattern matcher for the type system that like, hey, this parameter could be a pointer to a profiler with some type T in here, and we don't actually care, right? Now, an implementation detail is the way that we actually do this is by making an actual struct with a T in there, which is kind of messy and gross, honestly. There's probably some better thing to do. Actually, there's definitely a better thing to do that we almost have done, I guess. And so, but anyway, that's how it has been historically. And now the problem is when you put things like this in here, it means it's not a complete struct because you still don't know what this type is. So we shouldn't do anything in the body of the struct, right? But we're trying to here. So what happens is we have a struct where this is actually $T, which doesn't make any sense. And then we try to take type info of $T, which doesn't make any sense. Type info of what, right? So that's why the compiler was complaining. It's like type info of what? You wonder if it's possible to generate PDB. We do that. We've been doing that for years. Microsoft released the code view documentation a long time ago, which really helps. And then LLVM also supports it, although we have our own support built into the compiler as well. Okay. Yeah. Fix a problem with temporary polymorph structs. Honestly, I should put this into a test. Yeah, we want new polymorphism. Let's make sure that we actually can call this. Okay, something like that. Oh. Take a pointer. There we go. Great. So that's wonderful. We could put that in the test here. Am I going to take Casey's programming course? No, but I'll be interested to see what he does with it, for sure. For sure. Oh, that's pretty neat. It's not pretty neat. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that it's the year 2021 and we still think that like writing information to a debug file is somehow an interesting or difficult problem. It's just bytes in a known format, guys. It's just like a zip file. We've been able to write zip files from multiple computers since the 1980s. Why is PDB supposed to be different? It's not. It's just corporate incentives were not aligned. It's just a zip file. Except it doesn't even compress. It's like the worst zip file you ever heard of. It's not interesting or good or cool. PDB is like AR. Kinda. I mean, it's a little bit of not a good analogy because it's not a package format exactly. I mean, it is, but not for external data. But still, like, in terms of like the level of technical complexity, it's just not a there. It's the kind of thing that we've been doing for many decades. It's completely not interesting at all. I mean, it's fine. It's interesting in the sense that it's actually kind of well engineered in some ways. Like, I would much rather do CodeView debug info than Dwarf debug info because Dwarf is a freaking nightmare. But you know, they both also have, well, CodeView also has problems where the file format, you know, was a little too small in the beginning. So you have to do all these hacks to like put enough relocations in there and stuff. Never mind that relocations themselves are kind of embarrassing. I don't know, man. What do I think about the right to repair? it's complicated. I don't think realistically you can repair a frickin' iPhone right now, for example, right? But far in the future, you might be able to. Um, and so it's maybe good to preserve these kind of things until that time. Um, at the same time, though, our objective should just be to continue solving scarcity. If we continue solving scarcity, whether or not you can repair your iPhone is just going to be a peanuts kind of issue because you'll be too busy racing on your space plane between asteroids, right? Like that's what we should be thinking about. So I kind of don't care. I've replaced the screen and battery. Yeah, I mean, if the screen gets cracked or something, I get, yeah, that's relative. I mean, there's the guys at the mall who like swap out the screens or whatever. Um, but like if something comes unsoldered, like if like inside your iPhone, a contact comes loose, like what are you going to do? How are you going to debug your iPhone to figure out what, I mean, I guess you take it to a specialist who knows how to do that, right? I don't know. Like, yeah, you should be able, you obviously should be able to. And so there's all this weird DRM stuff that would prevent that, that we shouldn't buy into. But again, I also feel like it's kind of peanuts of an issue. Although, I mean, maybe if you don't have the right to repair your space plane, it ceases to become a peanuts kind of issue. So maybe we want to preserve it on the smaller things so that it maintains on the bigger things. Um, the bigger problem is honestly not. So guys, I mean, okay, right to repair is sort of an issue, but also it's being supervened by this problem where people don't really understand that an operating system is supposed to belong to you anymore and like let you run programs on the computer. So like if you can't even do the software that you want to do, how much is it going to matter if you could fix the hardware, right? Like, and again, this is where like open source has dropped the ball. And non-open source people have dropped the ball as well, like people who are not Microsoft or, you know, whatever. Um, like it's just the concept. So it should be that your device is cool and programmable and changeable and configurable and responsive, right? But the versions of those that we have created are so much of the versions of configurability and customizability that we have delivered are so much of a clusterfuck that, for example, I don't want to use them. Why would I give them to my grandma to use, right? Like I'd be putting my grandma in a hellscape and nobody sees this, right? And so if you're not going to show people the value of those things, then they'll just accept the limited functionality that they are given because what you're not giving them anything better, I guess. So now, like, what's an operating system? It's a thing that lets you launch TikTok, right? That's not that great. This extends to big agriculture equipment. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think at that scale, it starts being more important as well. I don't know. Again, like if you're using your phone to watch TikTok and argue with people on Twitter about whatever is happens to be in the trending bar this morning, I kind of honestly find it hard to give a shit about whether you can repair your phone or not, right? But at the same time, there's a small percentage of people who are actually going to actually do something with their phone. And for those people, yeah, we should preserve these rights. You use your phone to make calls. I'm sorry. I mean, call quality is so bad on a cell phone now. It's unbelievable. You guys would not believe how good it was to talk to somebody in your neighborhood on a landline in the 1980s. High quality shit. All right. So let me just check this in. Update my pup date. Update a test. That's great. Okay, let's see another Bugsnax. This is LVM, still present in 054. Yes, okay. I did some stuff with float literals a while back and it had some fallout. Let's fix this. We'll probably go back to struct polymorphism, but I actually want to fix this because it's probably easy to fix, but it's also very important. This cast fucks up and it puts this. I'm actually not sure why this fucks up. I am not sure. It's a constant expression cast. It probably doesn't put the type in correct. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So it, for some reason, doesn't notice during this procedure call that the type is wrong, but it does during code generation. So like LLVM is complaining that we're calling a thing with an argument of the wrong size. Which is good that it's noticing that. So weird though. So weird. Why? It's like the implicit cast actually works. This one doesn't. That's let's just see what happens with that. Const expert. Probably in here. And then line, this is a cast on line 5. All right. Okay. Okay, so we've done the expression. That should be a literal. We're doing const expert cast number to number. Whoops. Here we go. A flags are flags. I don't know what these mean. Oh, yes, I do. These are number flags. So this is float. But why is it float? That's just, let's see. Literal numeric float and is a number, okay. Right, so by default, that's going to be a float 32. We are deciding that it should be 64-bit because that's what the cast says, right? So this type, the target type of the cast, determines the number flags in R flags. So this looks correct to me so far. We're not doing a pointer result. A float, R float. Oof. That's not good. That is not good. Okay. Right. So the target type has number flag 64-bit set. Now, is this going to break some? Is there some reason? Is there some reason? Anyway, why don't we just set the type on it, by the way? Why don't we set the number cast hardened type here? Yeah, okay, so the value is fine. It's just we're telling it it's the wrong type still. But then, oh, we're setting the inferred type to something, but we're setting the numeric flags on, yeah, okay. Also, maybe we should set the number cast target type, but one thing at a time. Okay, so this thing, numeric flags from number flags, didn't seem to get changed correctly. That's a little bit of a weird flag name at this point, because that is certainly not due to the Lexer. Very loud car going by that is slower than my car. Okay. Okay. That appears to have fixed the problem. We could print out the value. Whoops. All right. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, dude. ISDN lines, when those were used for voice, amazing. Sounded real good. Real good. It's so bad trying to talk to people on my iPhone now. It's like such a terrible device for phone conversations. Ay, ay, ay. There's another warning. This is something that I haven't bothered to fix. This is just some bug that's probably minor, that is my fault, that I'm procrastinating on because these other things are all more important. And I've been procrastinating on this one for like 6 months. So it makes me look bad. Congratulations. Okay. All right. So this one is also a repro, which maybe should be fixed as well. I don't know about that log. Yeah, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so that's fixed. All right. Fixed in the next beta. I'm going to go to the change log and say fixed incorrect casts on floating point numbers that happen in a subset of cases caused by float changes made in beta 53. I'll go ahead and use the full name because I did this. It's O.O.053. Baby. You think that says more about the cell networks than the phone? I mean, kind of. It's just the microphone and speaker quality in the iPhone are not very good. Because I think they're just optimizing for size and weight and cost, right? They're not optimizing for people being able to understand what you're saying when you talk to them on the phone. But then also the phone carriers are also super guilty of this. Like, just the like things get so downsampled and companded to save like a seemingly tiny amount of voice bandwidth that's like negligible. Like, everybody's watching full motion video on their phones. Like, voice is such a small amount compared to that. Like, why is it being compressed so much? Like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Maybe it's just because most people don't know what's good. So if you can save, $1 million a year across the entire network by making everybody's calls shit, then you do that and they won't know that that's what you did. I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, maybe it's like hard for them to turn it off. How much sawdust can you add to Rice Krispie treats before people notice? That is basically exactly it. Yes. Most people don't use their phones as phones. Yeah, part of that, though, is because they suck as phones. I mean, part of it is that, like trends in communication have changed. Like, I don't really want to talk to people live when I can text them in the middle of the day, or they can text me, right? I don't want to have to stop what I'm doing to talk to them. Like, texting is asynchronous and that's better, but If I have to call the dude to tow my car because the tire's flat, which I had to do, I want a phone where I can actually understand what the dude is saying, which I don't have, despite the fact that I paid many hundreds of dollars for this phone, right? Like it's, if you enable Wi-Fi calling, it helps. Yeah, it's still not actually good though. It is better. It is better than talking over the cell network, but it's not actually good quality. Like when I'm talking to Casey while we play Satisfactory through this microphone and his microphone, which isn't even, I don't think, as good as this one because he uses his good one on a different computer. It sounds way better. Right now, of course, this is a large microphone that costs a lot of money and stuff, so you shouldn't expect a phone to be that good, but I should expect it to be as good as what I had in the 80s, right? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Those old manila rotary dial phones that weighed like 5 pounds were the best. They were. I had one of those all the way through high school, or most of the way through high school, from when I was a kid. And those were good phones, dude. Like they were way better than any phones that you see today. It's so weird. Like if you ever see War Games, right? The phone that he puts on the acoustic coupler modem, those were good phones. Those were badass. I think, if I remember correctly, he's just a standard Bell telephone phone, right? I think he was using one of those in that movie. How good was it compared to my current mic? Probably worse. This is a very good microphone. Yeah, imagine trying to make a modem that talked through your iPhone. All right. Imagine that. Imagine that instead of like using the personal hotspot, you had to like put it on the acoustic coupler. Like there's no way you would not get any data through here. It would be garbage. They didn't work at 144 kilobaud. No, they certainly didn't. I mean, the fastest ones that I was aware of were 2400 baud, and those had a high error rate. But like my non-acoustic coupler modem on my Commodore 64 was 300 baud. Like that wasn't exactly fast, but like we got by. I think I got 1200 baud later. Was breaking up Bell a bad move? I don't know. I mean, it's a weird thing because, like, look, obviously by the time we got to cell phones, that created a new space where there was just new competition that they would have had to deal with. Probably. I guess, although I don't know how, I'm not sure what the mechanics are of getting a phone number in that scenario, but like that's only, you know, cell phones started happening in the mid 90s. Like some people, like rich people had cell phones in like 91, 92. So like that's not that long after the breakup of the phone companies. So it's like, was it really necessary? I don't know. Was it the right thing? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Like I was too young at that time to really have opinions on this and to see it clearly. 300 baud was faster than you could read or type. Yeah, it's just if you're downloading a game or something, it's pretty slow, right? As for international trade reasons, yeah, I mean, so the thing that I'm learning is basically the common perception of pretty much any historical event that you can name is a complete oversimplified farce, and the actual reasons for that thing happening are a lot more complex and uh, probably not known to most people. I mean, it depends on the scale of the event. A lot of the times, things that are large scale enough that most people actually know why they're happening get retconned very quickly into something that's a more acceptable narrative, right? So, like, actually understanding what and why things happened it's difficult. It's difficult. Like, imagine 30 years from now what the narrative is going to be about why the world shut down for 18 months due to COVID. Um, I don't think it's going to be that close to what we would say today. And what we would say today is mostly random noise. So, like, eh, eh. All right, let's do some more programming though. Do I want more tea? I kind of want another drink. Do I want a cold drink? Yes, I want a cold drink. Yeah, CNN has already lasted, I don't know, is it really 40 years? I mean, we definitely had CNN when I was in high school. In like, let's say 86, 87. I mean, dude, Wolf Blitzer was reporting on the Gulf War when I was in high school. All right. Do I have any opinions about Brett Victor's ideas about programming? Yes, I think he is. He is looking in interesting directions with regard to how to understand programs, and I think that's very important. I do think that he doesn't push his ideas hard enough on the axis of how do I make these apply to non-toy systems, and I'm not sure why. Like, I think he would be aware that somebody like me would make that criticism, and he would not accept that criticism, and I'm not sure exactly why. Like, maybe he just thinks if you put more effort into it, you would solve those problems. I'm not convinced of that. I think that you need a different model for more complex programs. But that said, his kind of research is a useful starting point for how to get to that eventual model. I just wish more people were working on getting to that eventual model. Wasn't the Gulf War in the early 90s? Yeah, no. Okay, so what was it? What was it that he was reporting on? I just remember in high school, you're right, the first Gulf War was like 91 or something, right? 90, 91. Um, it must have been something prior to that. It's just, I remember one of my teachers in high school talking about Wolf Blitzer on CNN, and then the memory blurs. Yeah, it would have been something that happened in 88, 87, 88, 89, somewhere around there. Okay, we need another Bugsnax. We need another Bugsnax. Oh, this one. Let's leave that one for a bit. Compiler crash with polymorphic struct argument. This one might already be fixed, which doesn't mean that it behaves correctly. It still crashes. Ooh. Ooh, ouch. Ouch. That's probably the same problem in a different place as the other one that we had. Let's find out. Yeah, it's so weird that my memory was this high school teacher talking about the Gulf War. That is clearly not what it was. Okay. So we're getting an accepted block from an if statement. When that if statement is inside a frickin'... Okay, let's go back and look at the actual file. What's it called? polystruct crash, but it's here. Okay, so we're doing this thing again. So this is just like that example that we had before, except it's got 2 values instead of 1. Not that big of a fundamental difference. But hash table is more complex. Of a struct with more stuff inside it, such as, for example, a static if. So what's going to happen is we're trying to size this struct. It is polymorphic. Whoops. Right, so I think if I look at the flag, wait. It doesn't think it's polymorphic, but it is. I kind of wonder which of these. Let me put these on different lines, because that way, right, that'll still crash, right? Yeah. So that way we could tell by the line number whether it's the first one or the second one. Oh, actually, it's getting the line number from the actual hash table file, so that didn't matter. Haha. Okay. Let's just look at Bugsnax. Arguments block should have wait, it's got 2. Really? What? Why has it got 2 arguments and 2 things in the constants block? I don't understand that at all. That's a weird one. I apparently need a nap. That's what I get for staying up till 4 a.m. This is generated. Oh, here we could tell. Line 4, which is this one. It's the bottom one. So it probably doesn't know this is polymorphic because I mean, we bind these to identifiers or something. Okay, what if I do that? Okay, that doesn't crash. So indeed it is this. So like, it's looking up those identifiers. Those identifiers are going to be in the constants block of the procedure. So they should be polyuse. They probably aren't for some reason. How you just got a Twitch notification email. I mean, computers are pretty slow. They can't possibly send you an email within 2 hours of when the thing starts. Just imagine how much data is in that email that they have to send you. Just imagine how many bits are in that email. It's almost as big as a 32 by 32 block of one frame of this video that you're watching. It's heavy duty shit to send that to people. Exactly. The internet is a series of tubes. And not all the things will fit through the tubes. By the way, maybe that's the time when I realized everybody was dumb about technology. Was the time when I was watching The Daily Show and Jon Stewart was making fun of Senator Ted Stevens for being an old fogey and not knowing that the internet, and thinking that the internet is a series of tubes, and making fun of how stupid that was, when in fact the internet is a series of tubes. Like literally. Like, well, your connection over the internet at any one time is a series of tubes. Like, it's so absurd. Like the Dunning-Kruger involved in that, and the fact that everybody was making fun of him, like on the internet, the Dunning-Kruger involved in that was astounding. Like that the internet was overloaded, which is why he didn't get an email from his intern until the afternoon. Yeah, like that's probably not the real cause of not getting that email, but I'm just saying the way everybody was making fun of the dude in the stupidest possible way, showing that they themselves do not know anything about the technology that they think they're so smart for being able to use. It was crazy to me. Like, of course, it's not a series of tubes. It's magical electrical wires and stuff, which are totally nothing like tubes. A wire is absolutely nothing like a tube. It's like, circular in circumference. Things travel through it by being pushed by pressure from the things behind them. The volume of those things that can travel through it per second are based on the cross section of the tube and the pressure behind them. Like, yes, obviously YouTube is a tube. Optical fiber doesn't need pressure and doesn't depend on the radius. That is true. Fiber optics is a different scenario. But like none of the wiring in your house is fiber optics. I guess, so if we're talking about, when would that have been? Early 2000s? Mid 2000s? Mid 2000s, right? Late 2000s? There certainly would have been a decent amount of fiber optic in the backbones, right? But then you still, you know, if it's not electrical cable and if it's fiber optic, you still have a bandwidth, right, controlled by how quickly can you encode and decode the light at the endpoints. So it's still functionally like a wire. Yeah, totally. It has different constraints, yes, like bending, right? And there's like Nyquist limit and all these things. So, yeah, different medium, but fiber is like a wireless wire. I mean, fiber is fiber. Cables are cables. They are different. But like your whole computer is a series of tubes. Come on. Well, very, very funny, fractally interestingly shaped tubes. Okay, so this thing is crashing, and it's because probably we don't frickin' know. Either we don't know what these identifiers map to, which I think we actually do. I think it's just not somehow not determining the polymorph correctly. I'm kind of not in the mood to work on this anymore. We've been streaming for 2 hours. That's good for a Sunday. I was up till 4 a.m. But I'm going to work on it at least a little more. We'll see what the issue is. Fiber optic is more like a laser pointer on a rail. Yeah. Sort of. I mean, except for the part where it's changing real fast. Okay. Okay. So we know that this is the struct that was having a problem. Oh, there's this mystery. Why are things in the arguments block and the constants block? Oh, because it was a copy. The things in the constants block are going to be the base type. Right? Are they? No. Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, it's got, okay. I was used to thinking about other things. It's going to have these two in the arguments block because we didn't set them. Which I guess is weird because we probably should have because they're defaults. And these two in the constants block because we did set them. Let's verify that. Okay, so constants block. That's going to have two things. So we're going to look at here. Oh, come on. Dude, this UI sucks so bad. Okay. So identifier. Someday Visual Studio will show me the information I want. Given hash function and given compare function. Okay, yes. So now it is dicey to me that this didn't cause those to be invoked. That seems wrong, but I'm going to procrastinate on that one. Okay, so what's in the constants? Wait, what? Hold on. That's the opposite of what I thought. This is the constants block. And then I brain switched and thought these were in the arguments block. Like, what? If these are still in the arguments block, that's kind of nutty, question mark. Like, what? Key type. Value type. What is going on? Okay, I don't know why that is, first of all, but if a struct still has things in the arguments block, we should not size it. That is not a thing. So we have like multiple issues, which again is not surprising. Is not surprising because this is new functionality that hasn't been really thoroughly vetted. Okay. Okay. People don't necessarily have an arguments block. All right. Fill struct type definition. Struct has been sized. Okay, let's see that one too. This is a new, so one of the changes that I made for beta 54 is how structs store their parameters, because I brought it more in line with how procedures work. So there's two separate places now. There used to be one place with all the declarations used to live there, and then they would not be bound to anything, and then we would fill those in. But that was A, different from how procedures worked, and then B, confusing internally for me. So I changed the way it works, and I think not everything has been correctly adapted to that. So here, struct has been sized. I guess we do want to generate these. Wait, so we set polymorphic. Okay, so we're assert size checks the flag, which is okay. So we do want to be here. It's just our assertion. Well, that may not be the only problem, so. Was it beta 54? Yeah, as of beta 54, we changed the way arguments are stored. We can have arguments. Maybe I want to frickin'. Yeah. Oh. Okay, we'll put a tag on this. This is harassment. I am tired. Wait, where was 334 of type table, right? Okay, I just wanted to check that I actually used that. All right, so that might not be the only thing we want to skip if there are arguments. Hey, look. Oh, whoops, wrong program. Hey, look. Okay. That doesn't crash, but do WTF with why those things were still in the arguments block? That doesn't make sense to me at all. it might actually be correct, and it's not clear to me why. So even though, okay, I'm going to actually check this fix in, but I'm going to put next on the to-do list. Why is this set up so that key and value are still in the arguments block, but the default parameters are in the constants block? It does not make sense. We're going to have to investigate that. But we will say... we're going to mark that fixed. We do have some no check-ins. So we haven't explained. Oh, no. I didn't check in after the 64-bit fix, guys. I'm a bad person. Okay. I'm a bad person. I'm a bad person. Okay. This isn't really due to the Alexer, but we need to indicate that this has to be 64 bits. Why are we not setting number cast hardened type unused literals? Instead, that may be a better, since we don't have to do weird literal numeric back conversion. Okay. So like, you can see that I'm not going to stop right now and do this because the problem is solved for now. But I do think that there's probably a better way to solve it, like I put in this comment, but I'm not sure, right? And I don't want to rat hole on this solution because I have higher urgency problems to solve, like problems that people with the beta are actually experiencing, and we can deliver value to them sooner by fixing those problems, right? But in a high quality software project, you do actually want to go and sweep for these eventually and fix them. And that does happen here. Sometimes it takes a long time, but it does happen eventually, which is why it is worth writing these comments. Anyway, so, okay, that was not the only no check-in. Okay, what was the harassment? Oh, wait, struct arguments are ready. Oh, that's a different thing. And hold on, let's go back to that one. What's this one? Okay, this is, oh, it's the same one. Okay, so this is arguments block harassment. You're going to have to report that arguments block harassment to HR. Okay, so with this one, like, I feel like this clearly doesn't matter. Let's see. This might have been switched to constants block. No. Okay. Okay, I'm going to run the test before I comment this out. My theory is this is stupid because if there are arguments, we just bail and have a polymorphic struct anyway. No, actually, actually, there's a reason for this to be here. It seems weird to block on arguments being inferred if we are just going to punt when they exist, as in the line below. But after this, we get put into the type table, which will be very unhappy if our arguments are not inferred. Okay, so this again, this is a kind of comment that I'm getting better at, which is some kinds of comment are like, hey, I did something I made some code here and it's kind of complicated. So let me explain what's happening. In this case, that's not really what it is. It's more like, well, we're calling this thing. It's actually been there for a while. Let's explain why, because it looks, I can anticipate, in fact, because I was confused by this, I can anticipate that somebody else looking at this would be confused by it. And so let's just intercept that confusion before it really happens, right? Or it took me a minute to think about why this actually makes sense to do. If I were to think about it another time, I might not, even if it's me and not somebody else, I might not have that realization correctly. So document it, right? Save the information so that it is not lost. That's a very good use of comments that people don't seem to do enough of. Okay. Is there a point where something goes unfixed long enough without consequences that you decide it's just not worth doing? It depends on the category of the thing. Some things are well, maybe we should think about this. And then later it's nah, right? That happens sometimes. Sometimes it's oh, maybe this should be restructured. But then later that code goes away anyway because the rest of your system changed. That's another reason why you don't want to rat hole and do all this work up front, because as your system changes, it will invalidate certain things. So, yeah. Whoops, sometimes problems really do go away if you ignore them. Most don't, but some do. And when they do, take the win, right? You need all the wins you can get in this business. There are also situations where it's debatable whether or not it needs to be fixed. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. All right. So I think that's all the bug snacks that I have brain fuel for today. Again, some of you know I was up till 4 a.m. playing Satisfactory and get very grumpy at the game. And then I woke up at 10 a.m. And now it's 8 p.m. So yeah, getting a little sleepy from lack of sleep. So that might be where we leave it. I want to pick this up tomorrow when I'm fresh and do this next. I want to at least look at that and understand it. I don't think it's right, but it might be right, the way it's behaving. Oh, I think I know why it's happening. Kinda. I kind of think I kind of know. I can kind of vaguely visualize in my head why it's happening. Are there any technical questions about what we've been doing? because I could keep the stream going for a bit. I'm not going to actually go to sleep. It's just like I want a programming break. Better fix it now. No. No. No, 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 no. 55 betas. Well, we haven't shipped beta 55 yet, so 54 beta. Although the month isn't over yet either. But yes, that is accurate. That is how many betas and how many months that it has been, approximately. The changelog file is 1,000 lines, 1,300 lines. That's 1/50th of the size of the compiler. Maybe eventually the changelog will be the size of the compiler. Did I find someone good for the compiler team? Yes, we have not. So we've got two people who are coming on to help out. One is like a part-time contractor. Another one is full-time. And the part-time contractor has started. And then the full-time, we have informally agreed to start in a couple weeks, but have not signed the employment contract yet. But that should happen soon, hopefully. So there's going to be a lot more people pushing on this kind of thing, broadly speaking, like making the compiler better. How long does a compiler take to compile? I don't know. Too long, but not that long. I need to, assuming we actually hire this person, I still need to email back the other candidates and let them know that they were good candidates, but maybe next time. We had a lot of good people apply for this, actually. So it was, you know, it was not the easiest decision to make. We have those guys doing bug fixes instead of design. I don't think we need to do very much design right now. What we need to do is make the compiler better in various ways. So that's bug fixes partially. That's performance partially. It's, well, features. Okay, so there's design on some features. So for example, how are we going to do inline assembly in the compiler? How do we want to parallelize it better? How do we want to do the optimizer? So there is some design, but it's not like a lot of the design of the language just is what it's going to be. So it's not like we're going to be radically changing a lot of things. Have I found a better way to coordinate the work? I hope so. I definitely know not to handle it the way I did last time, so we'll see. How do I fund the compiler? With money from the games. How do you gauge good candidates? I mean, it depends. So on this project, because it's just me working on it right now, it's more like I look at the individual people and say, how does this person's experience and background and the way they think about problems, how can it be used to push this project forward? So it's not really about coming up with a job description and then trying to shoehorn people into that job description. In this case, it was more like, let's just see what people can do and what they bring to the table and see if we can use that Are we going to be able to use variables in the inline assembly? Probably. Did we hire Barney Star Soup? No. Are the people we're hiring have background compilers? I don't remember exactly. I don't think that either person we're hiring has a ton of experience in this kind of compiler in this way. I think if you're a relatively experienced programmer, you've done some things that are proximal no matter what, you know. From now on, am I planning to program stuff using the new programming language only? Mostly, except that the compiler is still in C++. What's the next most important step? I mean, it's just a lot of work to complete what is here, right? Like just taking it all the way to being a production quality thing that people could use, given the current shape of the design. That's just work, and it's doable, but it would be nice to have people help me. If I had to pick one thing that I did wrong the last time that I'm not doing now, what is it? There's a bunch of stuff, and some of it I shouldn't say because it's just, you know, that's like airing dirty laundry. Not exactly, but it's just not, it's proximal to that, so it's not good. What I would say is, definitely spending more time to communicate why we are doing what we are doing at a very fundamental level, and making sure that what people do is in the spirit of what we are doing, rather than just like adding more code to the compiler and tools and tests, right? Like we definitely had a situation before where it seemed like I thought that because I talk very publicly about the compiler and why it's being done and all that, that those things were being readily communicated. But then what I felt like was that the things that were being done didn't seem to be in that spirit most of the time. And I'm like, what's going on? But so I sort of needed to catch that sooner than I did, which I didn't. And then I needed to probably have some kind of internal communication structure about like cultural maintenance. I mean, that's a weird way to say it. It's kind of like company culture, but it's like project culture. It's like, look, we do certain kinds of things. We absolutely do not do certain other kinds of things. Here's why. And to try to communicate those things. And, you know, and then at that point, if people are not interested in that, then they can go find another job, right? But I think I didn't do enough of that. I also think I gave people a lot of latitude to like, I had this attitude, which rhymes with latitude, for a couple years about like, look, I'm super busy, but I'm going to let people do things. And even if they don't seem like what I would do in the beginning, I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt and just let them keep doing it and see where it goes. And I'm not going to shut things down preemptively because they don't look like what I like. And well, the problem with that was 100% of the time that was the wrong decision. Like 100% of the time I should have strong-armed things into what I thought they should be rather than what people were doing. So I just learned something about that. Like, there's something about doing focused work toward a very specific goal that's coherent is not actually a thing that most people are used to doing. Like most people are not used to making sure that the ideas that they have are coherent and focused even by themselves, but especially fitting into the goals of a pre-existing project. And so, or sometimes people just have ideas and they're not that good of an idea, right? And like, you just have to, like, giving people the benefit of a doubt 100% of the time. This happened not even just on the compiler, but on the game. 100% of the time, it was not the right move. And that makes me a little bit sad. Like, I would have rather... Actually, no. Okay. I say that and it's wrong. That was true for programming in this specific period that I was talking about. But I think maybe I also just got unlucky because there are maybe other departments where I let that happen and it turned out okay, actually. So 100% of the time for that particular period in programming, it like didn't work out. We like rolled a bunch of zeros on the dice in Vegas or something. I don't know what happened. So I don't know. I don't know what I learned from all that. Those are just my thoughts. When you strong arm people, they won't want to work for you. Yeah. Well, when I say strong arm, I don't exactly mean, what should I say about that? Like we don't, the company culture is not to micromanage people and dictate every little thing that they do. On the other hand, I was way too hands off the steering wheel with regard to what some people were doing. I just kind of trusted them to do the right thing, and they weren't doing that. And that's, again, because maybe this project culture layer wasn't there. That takes time and energy on my part, but maybe it's worth putting that time and energy in. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Were the people working on the compiler less experienced than me? I mean, almost every programmer is less experienced than me because A, I'm older than most people who are still working, and B, I've put in way more hours than most people per year. So that's not always true. There were definitely years when I didn't do that, but so I could have done better. But especially lately, like I do more work per year than most people, and so like I'm just more experienced than most programmers. Now that's in general, right? So that doesn't apply to specific cases. So if there's somebody who, for example, does a lot of 3D graphics, that person is going to be a lot more experienced in 3D graphics than me and so forth. But if you're talking general experience, I mean, someone who's in their 20s, it's just not possible for them to have as much experience as I have. They would have had to program for more waking hours than they have, probably. Maybe it's barely possible. I'd have to think about it. I'd have to do the math on that. I would have to do the math. What would I currently recommend to make games with? I don't know. I mean, whatever works for you. Whatever you like to use. If you don't have an opinion on what you like to use, then just try some stuff and form opinions. You program at all hours of the day and don't sleep? Well, then it might be possible for you to have more experience, yes. Now, that said, quantity isn't everything either, right? It's quite possible. So I've definitely had a lot of low quality hours of programming. I could have done a lot of things more effectively sooner if I'd had better guidance. So like, hours isn't everything. So it is possible for someone in their 20s to have more experience than me by virtue of quality. Like if the hours they've put in were somehow much higher quality hours than mine. That said, I'm not sure that that's possible in the current environment where everything is kind of garbage and people spend so much time dealing with these garbage systems. Like I had to spend a lot of time, like back when I'm programming in machine language on my Commodore 64, rebooting it all the day, or like even Windows early on before it had memory protection. That takes a lot of time, but does it take more time than figuring out why your web browser isn't displaying things columnated correctly like you think it should? I kind of don't think so. You know? You typically regret your sleep deprived programming. I do too. Like if I'm too deprived, it doesn't come out well. But if I'm mildly tired, sometimes those extra hours really help to put in. Yeah, like with anything, with programming, as with writing, as with dancing, as with anything, there's like some people have the right attitude of how to get better over time, like how to observe what they did and what worked well and what didn't work well and constantly get better. Some people don't have that and don't get better or don't get much better. Like, so that's like the most important ingredient. So if you don't have that, then even if you've programmed for decades for many hours a year, it's like you could not be that good at the end of that, right? Compared to somebody who really has an eagle eye for how to improve their own knowledge and process and all these things. So that's very important. And that's something you can always improve. Like I could improve that still. Certainly people with less experience could improve that. And the sooner you improve it, the better, because then all your hours after that are higher quality hours. Your solution is past current you is always an idiot and you can do better. Yeah. I mean, kind of. I would also say false humility relative to other people is not helpful. Like if you really are going to do a better job than somebody else, then it's not helping if you pretend that's not true. You know, if it's important for that job to be done as well as possible, right? Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are doing bad jobs that are boring, right? And it's very hard to improve if you're spending all your time pretending to work or doing mind-numbingly dumb stuff that could be automated away or whatever, right? Or like programming in JavaScript. So um, the thing is, you got to get out of that situation. If you're in that situation and you actually want to do interesting things, be alive, right? Move, find a different place. Um, I mean, some people don't want, some people just want to get paid. That's fine. They're just not going to end up being top programmers, you know, but that's okay, right? Like if, I mean, again, getting paid means that your employer thinks that you're providing enough value for what they're paying you for. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, it's not going to let you be a top programmer. I think this beta is going to be relatively small. Like, again, I think I'm going to ship it just when we fix all the Bugsnax from the mailbag, which it'd probably be about 10 of these or something. I don't know. So we'll probably ship this beta, I mean, depending on how many days I put in the next few days. And then there's probably still going to be problems with the new struct polymorphism. That's just expected for a feature this big. That got completely rewritten in the last beta. It's freaking huge change. So it's pretty destabilizing, but we will stabilize it. Did I ever get mentored by someone? No, I had to pretty much self-teach. Like, I definitely had teachers in various times, but usually, like in grade school and high school, I kind of was self-guided and maybe learned a little bit from the teachers, but they didn't really know. Like, they weren't expert programmers. They were just like teaching the course curriculum. In college, again, almost none of my teachers were actual serious programmers. But you know, they had opinions on things, and I absorbed some of those and then unlearned them later sometimes. But mostly, the thing about programming is you learn from the computer, right? You have an interactive mentor at all times where you type the things and it responds to the things, and that's really valuable. So you have to learn how to use that. Can I do bicep curls with the big boys? Well, it depends on how heavy the weights are. Do we still have features in mind for the language? Yeah, in a couple of departments, like the macro system still has to get finished. The inline assembly needs to happen. But those are sort of the biggest features. Then there's like littler like implementation details about a lot of the existing features that could be filled out better. They could be nicer. And yeah, I don't know. But like we're mostly, for version 1 of the language, we're mostly through most of the features, except of course some like inline assembly is very non-trivial in terms of how much work that is, right? So is Jason Hall still the most swole programmer? I never met Jason Hall in person, so I don't know. And I don't know what he looks like in the year 2021. Do I have any advice for someone trying to leave the grind to work more on a game ideas but struggling creating time and space to go into it? I mean, most people are afraid to do that. I don't quite understand that because I was never afraid to go do my own thing. Like I dropped out of college. Even when I was in college, I was doing my own thing most of the time. In high school, I was not doing the homework ever. Like I was always have been a do my own thing guy. And so starting a company relatively soon out of college was like not a big deal. It was interesting and exciting. So I kind of, if you don't want to do that, I kind of don't know why not. It's up to you. It's like, you know, and I don't know what your reasons are for not doing these things. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out, everybody. I think I'm going to sign off. You also assume my parents were pretty supportive. I mean, they did buy me a computer, which was amazing. But like they didn't know anything about computers, and just I was in my room doing the thing. All right, thanks everybody. We'll do some more programming later, maybe tomorrow. Have a good evening.